swearing in front of sharks. You have to put your girl out there yet, too. You're not going to throw out your cheeseburger, you know? That's funny, you know. Yeah. I think that this is all over. He'll be back.
All rise for the count now in session. The Honorable Eugene Lucci presides. Good to see you.
Your Honor, may I vote?
Yes.
I showed Mr. Matthews that this is just the elements of the offense statute that are incorporated in count 5, the city having in front of me.
Right.
So then it's clean.
On record, this is case number 22 CR 000905, State of Ohio versus John A. Pomplus. Mr. Pomplus is in court, represented by counsel. Assistant Public Defender James Matthews, representing the State of Ohio, is Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Rocco DePiero. Mr. Pomplus, you are charged by the Lake County Grand Jury in an 11-count indictment filed on September 19th, 2022. Count 1, grand theft motor vehicle, felony 4. Count 2, petty theft misdemeanor 1. Count 3, receiving stolen property, felony 4. Count 4, unauthorized use of vehicle, felony 5. Failure to comply with order or signal of police officer, felony 4. Count 6, criminal trespass, misdemeanor 4. Count 7, theft from a person in a protected class, felony 5. Count 8, theft from a person in a protected class, felony 5. Count 9, possession of heroin, felony 5. Count 10, possession of cocaine, felony 5. And count 11, aggravated possession of drugs, meth, felony 5. It's my understanding that you have entered into an agreement with the state whereby the state would find acceptable and you would be willing to provide your plea of guilty to count 4, unauthorized use of a vehicle, felony 5, the lesser included offense to count 5 being attempted failure to comply with the order or signal of a police officer, felony 5, amended count 7 theft from a person in a protected class to include the victim and property from count 8, felony 5, and count 10, possession of cocaine, felony 5, and that the state would request that the remaining 7 counts be dismissed. Is that your understanding as to what you want to do here today?
Yes, sir.
Before I can accept that plea, I have to determine if you know and understand the rights you are giving up, the consequences of a guilty plea, and that you are changing your plea to guilty of your own free will. How old are you?
Good man.
How far did you go in school?
GED 12
And, Mr. Matthews, move the microphone closer to your client. Do you have the ability to read, write, and understand the English language?
Absolutely.
Do you hold any kind of state licensed occupational position?
Tattoo artist. Tattoo artist. My occupation, yeah.
I don't know if that's licensed.
Yes, it is.
Do you have a license?
I do.
Okay. Do you know if this would have any effect on it?
Oh,
if
no,
you were
actually,
convicted?
no. I was just asking if you was confident, and productive person. Yeah, I don't know if that was the reason why you're asking.
All right. Yeah, the reason why I'm asking, because like if you're a cosmetologist, barber, nurse, they can take your license from you.
Oh, okay. No.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Absolutely.
Are you currently under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or medication?
I'm not under the influence, but I do take. They're prescribing me gabapentin, 1,200 milligrams a day, 600 twice daily. Naloxone, muscle relaxer, prednisone, and some kind of blood thinner. I can't remember the name. That's the medication I'm on.
Okay. And they're all prescribed to you, right?
Yes, sir.
And do any of these interfere with your ability to think clearly?
No, sir.
Are you thinking clearly now?
Absolutely.
Have you ever been medicated, treated, or hospitalized for any mental illness?
Yes.
And tell me about that. When did that start?
Ever since I got out of prison after doing 10 years. And a lot of it was just bull crap, trying to finesse the system. But sometimes, I was really not mentally stable because of drugs,
Did they treat you with any kind of mental health drugs?
And they tried, but I never followed up, And that's where I'm at now. Like, I'm ready to succumb and try it their way,
All right. Have you received a copy of the indictment?
Yes, sir.
Did you read the charges?
Yes, sir.
You understand the charges?
Yes, sir.
Did you discuss those charges with your attorney?
I did.
Did he answer all of your questions to your satisfaction about the charges?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree that count 4, unauthorized use of vehicle, felony 5, lesser included offense to count 5, attempted failure to comply, felony 5, amended count 7, including the victim from 8, theft from a person in a protected class, felony 5, and count 10, possession of cocaine, felony 5, describes what you did?
Yeah.
And you wish to plead guilty to those 4 charges?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You've been handed a 4-page document called Written Plea of Guilty. You probably went over this document with your attorney before we started the hearing, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you read this document?
Yeah.
Do you understand it?
Absolutely.
Did you discuss this document with your attorney?
Yes, sir.
Did he answer all of your questions to your satisfaction about the document?
Absolutely.
Do you agree with what it says?
I concur.
And do you wish to sign it?
I will.
I'm going to go over the charges you are proposing to plead guilty to so that we are all on the same page. Count 4 says on or between June 10th and June 16th of 2022 in Lake County, Ohio, you knowingly used or operated a motor vehicle, namely a 2005 Toyota Corolla, without the consent of the owner, Roger A. Salupo, or a person authorized to give consent, and kept possession of it for more than 48 hours. That's called unauthorized use of a vehicle. It's a felony of the 5th degree. It's in violation of Revised Code Section 2913.03B. Do you understand the charge? And is that the first charge in which you plead guilty to? Count 5, the lesser included offense, would read that on June 16th, 2022, in Lake County, Ohio, you purposely or knowingly engaged in conduct that, if successful, would constitute or result in the offense of failure to comply with the order or signal of a police officer, a felony of the 4th degree, under circumstances where the flight was immediately after committing a felony. So this would be attempted failure to comply, and a failure to comply is committed or completed when a person operates a motor vehicle so as willfully to elude or flee a police officer after receiving a visible or audible signal from a police officer to bring the person's motor vehicle to a stop, under circumstances where the offender was fleeing immediately after committing a felony. So do you understand the charge of attempted failure to comply, a felony of the 5th degree?
Yes, sir.
All right, and that's in violation of Revised Code Section 2921.331B. Count 7 as amended says that on or about July 5th, 2022, in Lake County, Ohio, you, with purpose to deprive the owner, being Susan Smith or Wesley Smith, of certain property, namely towels and assorted clothing, cologne, and or toiletries, knowingly obtained or exerted control over that property without the consent of the owner or someone authorized to give consent. Susan Smith being an elderly person and Wesley Smith being a disabled adult at the time of the offense. So that's called theft from a person in a protected class. It's a felony of the 5th degree. It's in violation of Revised Code Section 2913.02A1. Do you understand that charge?
Yes.
And you wish to plead guilty to that charge?
Yes, sir.
And count 10 says that on August 13th, 2022, in Lake County, Ohio, you knowingly obtained, possessed, or used cocaine, a Schedule II controlled substance. That's called possession of cocaine, felony 5, Revised Code 2925.11A. Do you understand that charge? And is that the 4th and final charge to which you wish to plead guilty?
Yes, sir.
You understand, if you plead guilty to the charges, you are admitting you committed those crimes.
Yes, sir.
You understand that if you had any defenses to the charges, you give up those defenses by pleading guilty.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving the court the power to sentence you immediately.
Yes, sir.
And you understand that any pending motions, I don't know if there are any, would be waived, and any rulings previously made by the court, any court on this case prior to this moment, would not be appealable because you're pleading guilty now.
Yes, sir.
And you understand that none of these crimes merge, meaning you can plead guilty, be found guilty, and be sentenced on all 4 of them, and those sentences can be consecutive. You have certain trial rights. You're giving them all up by pleading guilty. I'm going to explain them to you one at a time. I need to make sure that you know and understand you have these rights and that you're voluntarily giving up these rights. As I explain your rights to you, if you have any question about what I'm saying or if you need a better explanation, you need to speak up and let me know. Otherwise, I will assume you understood and answered the question that I asked you. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
You don't have to plead guilty. You have a right to have a trial to determine whether you're guilty of any crime. That trial would automatically be by a jury unless you decided you wanted a non-jury trial. A non-jury trial is a trial where you want the judge not only to make all of the decisions throughout the case, but you want the judge to make the ultimate factual determination in the case whether the state can prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that? You understand that a trial gives you the ability to test every aspect of the state's case, both factual and legal.
I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware of it now?
Yeah, I am now.
Okay. And you understand that with a jury trial, the jury makes the decision. I don't.
Correct. Whether
the state has proved its case against you. Furthermore, it takes all 12 jurors to agree that you're guilty before it's even possible for you to be convicted. Do you understand that?
Okay. Yes, sir.
The state of Ohio is required to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If the state failed to prove even one essential element of a particular charge beyond a reasonable doubt, you could not be convicted of that particular crime. Your plea of guilty provides the court the entire factual and legal basis upon which to convict you and sentence you, and by your plea you are relieving the state of any obligation to prove anything, let alone prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You have the right to confront your accusers, meaning to have your attorney question all of the state's witnesses under oath in front of the judge and jury. Do you understand that?
I was always told sometimes they don't need them.
Pardon me?
I was told they don't need them sometimes. So if I want to call somebody to stand, they have to come as a witness.
If you subpoena them, they do.
Oh, really? See, I was told it's not.
Now, that doesn't mean that they won't interpose an objection saying that they've got nothing.
Well, if the guy accusing you have the right to your
Oh, the guy that's accusing you, the state has to call him.
No case, right?
The state has to call him.
Right? That doesn't matter. I'm guilty. I took that release closed, so yeah, I understand.
Right. You understand that you do have the right to use the subpoena power of the court to compel witnesses you need to come here to testify for you.
Really? I do now.
Okay? You understand that you have the right to tell your side of what occurred here and testify, or you could refuse to testify. It's one way or the other, but it is your choice. No one can make you testify if you didn't want to, and if you chose not to testify, that could not be used against you to prove that you were guilty. The prosecutor could not comment on your silence to infer that you're guilty. The jurors would be told you have that constitutional right not to take the stand and testify. We would select only individuals during jury selection to serve on your jury who answer under oath that they will uphold that right. You understand that? You understand that if you were not pleading guilty today, you would always be represented by an attorney at law throughout this case. You understand that if you were not pleading guilty, you could appeal any of the decisions I would make throughout the case. You could appeal the jury's verdict. You would have a free transcript typed up of everything that was said or done in this court, so you can demonstrate to a higher court any mistakes made here to get those mistakes corrected, and a free attorney to handle that appeal for you. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand a plea of guilty is a complete admission of guilt?
Yes, sir.
Do you voluntarily give up all the rights that I just explained to you and wish to have this court accept your plea of guilty to these 4 felony 5 counts?
Yes.
Are you now, or were you at the time of any of these offenses, been on parole, post-release control, community control sanctions, or probation to any court anywhere?
Absolutely not.
And have you ever been to prison before?
Unfortunately.
And how many times?
First time was, well, 2 times. 2 times.
Did I send you both times?
You just sent me one.
The second time?
It was Texas.
Second time was Texas?
Yeah.
First time I sent you?
Yeah.
What I send you for? What was it underlying?
Well, my charge was aggravated arson, but had I known the laws then, I'd have got malicious destruction of property. But I did $300 worth of damage. I got charged with felony 1 aggravated arson right around the terrorist attack.
How much time did I give you?
I think 11 years.
And when was this? What year?
2001. I pulled 9 of it.
And then the Texas conviction, what was that for?
I was bad on heroin, and drugs were really cheap out by the border. I OD'd, Hurricane Harvey hit, I had nowhere to go. I was dead.
How much time did you get?
2 years, but it was an assault on a public servant, which, like, I'm not trying to minimize crime, man, but, like, I mean, it'd be random beautiful women, I get hit in the head with a gay dude. I jumped up when they narcaned me, and I hit her, she's this tall, and she fell down and she hurt her wrist. So they charged me with 2 to 10 years, assault on a public servant and a police officer, but because Hurricane Harvey hit, they let me go on probation, and I asked the judge, I said, well, where am I going? I'm from Ohio. So I went back to my mom's house, they arrested me on a fugitive warrant, and that's why I have failure. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't. That's why. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
All right. So you understand by pleading guilty, you're voluntarily giving up your liberty for whatever length of time. I sentence you to prison, jail, or community control.
Absolutely.
And you understand that on each of these charges, I can send you to prison for 12 months. If I did send you to prison, 6 months would be the minimum, and it would be a whole number of months between 6 and 12. You understand that?
Absolutely.
You understand that on counts 4, 5, and 10, I can fine you up to $2,500. You understand that on count 7, the theft from a person in a protected class, I can fine you a minimum, I have to fine you a minimum of $1 up to a maximum of $50,000.
Absolutely.
You understand that I can stack these sentences and make them consecutive with one another for a total maximum consecutive of 48 months in prison and total fines of up to $57,500. Understand that I can order you to pay restitution to the victims, all of their out-of-pocket loss, and as to the elderly victim, restitution is mandatory.
I want to pay it.
You said you do.
Absolutely.
And you understand that I can suspend your driver's license on the drug charge for up to 5 years.
Yes, sir.
You understand that while in prison you may be eligible for, be offered, and be able to earn some credit against prison time to be served by engaging in programming offered to you for that purpose. The prison credit is normally capped at 8% of time to be served. That might be able to be stretched to 10% of time to be served for a certain number of days according to the regulations. Upon your release from prison, you could be on post-release control, PRC, in the discretion of the Ohio Adult Parole Authority for a period of up to 2 years. As part of the PRC, you'll be given rules. If you violate those rules, you could be returned to prison for up to 9 months for any one violation, and for all violations together, you can be returned to prison for up to 1/2 the original prison term I give you. And if you were to violate post-release control by committing a new felony, the judge in a new felony case, in addition to sending you to prison on the new case, can send you back to prison on this case for the greater of 1 year or whatever length of time remains unexpired on that potential 2 years of PRC, and all of that time is part of the sentence. Do you understand that? If I chose not to send you to prison, I would place you on community control sanctions that could last for up to 5 years. Under the community control sanction, there'd be various probationary conditions that I would establish for you in the case, which could include time in a local jail, the fines that I mentioned, abstinence from alcohol and drugs of abuse, periodic screenings to monitor your compliance, any treatment I determine you need, substance abuse or mental health, community service, the license suspension, restitution, a no-contact order, anything I determine you need to do. You understand you would be required to perform exactly what I tell you to do, exactly how I tell you to do it.
Absolutely.
If you fail to do so, you'd be brought back before me on a probation violation. I would conduct a hearing. If I determine that you did violate your community control sanction, I can extend the period of time that you're on community control for up to that 5-year maximum. I can increase the nature and severity of the other conditions under the community control, meaning more time in jail, more treatment, more things to do, or I can terminate community control altogether and just send you to prison for the maximum consecutive of 48 months. Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
You understand that on the drug charge that you're already, because you have the other felony drug charge and the arson, you are disqualified from purchasing, owning, possessing, or using firearms or ammunition for firearms.
Absolutely.
That's both state and federal.
Does that include crossbow too? In the black powder?
Not a fire.
I was told by a cop that even a BB gun could get you locked up.
Did he tell you you can't drive in bare feet too?
Yeah, he told me a lot of things, actually. Told me don't piss that on either, but I'm listening.
No, a firearms disability means a firearm. That's a cartridge with an explosion that sends a thing out, a projectile out the barrel. You understand you can't vote from prison. You'd have to re-register to vote upon your release in order to regain your ability to vote. You cannot hold any position of public honor or trust. You understand that? And if you're on community control or post-release control, you can't serve as a juror in any case where the state of Ohio is a party to the action, because you would still have an active case with the state. In addition to what I mentioned, you understand I will order you to reimburse the government the cost of confinement, community supervision, treatment, and court costs.
Absolutely.
And the cost of confinement includes transportation costs between the court, the jail, and the prison. Do you understand that? You understand I will enter a judgment against you for the costs of prosecution.
Yes, sir.
If you fail to pay those costs or timely make payments on a payment plan approved by the court, and you are serving a community control sentence rather than a prison term, you may be able to substitute community service to pay it off. By local rule, you work it off at the rate of $10 per hour. Each hour of work performed reduces the judgment by that amount. You understand that failure to pay all fines and costs in full can result in the state blocking your motor vehicle license plates until they are paid in full. You understand all potential penalties?
Yes, sir.
Any question as to what can happen to you as a result of your plea of guilty today?
I understand.
You understand no promises have been made by the court, the prosecutor, your attorney, or anyone as to what I will do when it comes time for sentencing.
None of these guys, yeah. I mean, that's why I was trying to discuss with him. The Detectives Bureau, I've been talking to the last couple of weeks, and it was, I don't know, the menagerie down there. I don't know.
Well, for our purposes, you understand that I don't have to go along with any recommendation by the prosecutor, your attorney, or even a joint recommendation as to the sentence.
Do whatever you want, huh?
Right.
Amen.
You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone, well, Mr. DePiero, what the state has not made any promises with regard to a sentencing recommendation, is that correct?
Well, the state has promised to accept the defendant's offer to plead guilty to these 4 counts, which we have done. The state has promised to review the pre-sentence report prior to making its sentencing recommendation. The state will be recommending a prison term. We'll take into account that the defendant has pled guilty and offered to do so, took responsibility. Also, the state has promised not to require the defendant to join in any recommendation that the state will make. It is the agreement of the parties here that the defendant can request any sentence that he wants. It's the state's understanding that the defendant wishes to change his ways and sort of get his life together, deal with his demons, so to speak. And along those lines, the state expects the defendant is going to be requesting community control sanctions. So, Your Honor's question to me was as it relates to sentencing. That's why I mentioned all of those things. Certainly, after a plea of guilty, at the time of sentencing, the state would move to dismiss all the rest of the charges there. Those are the promises we made.
And Mr. Pomplus, did you hear and understand what the prosecutor just said?
Absolutely.
And do you have that same understanding?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone else made any kind of promises or threats to you in order to get you to plead guilty? Are you entering this plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
Have you told your attorney everything you considered important in the case?
Yes, sir.
Have you had enough time to discuss
I
with...
was about to say I've seen him twice in the 2 months that the case has been going on, but I mean, yes, I just want, yes, I'm good.
Okay, I want to make sure that you've had enough time to figure out what you're doing here.
I know what I'm not doing. Yeah, so yeah.
All right? Although this may be your attorney's recommendation for you to plead guilty to these 4 charges as amended on 2 of them, is this your own decision and voluntary act to do so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked him to do for you in this case?
Yes, sir.
And are you completely satisfied with the legal representation provided by James Matthews, your attorney?
Thrilled.
Pardon?
Absolutely. He did a good job.
What would the facts show if the case went to trial?
Your Honor, the facts would show that the defendant kept possession of a 2005 Toyota Corolla owned by Roger Salupo without the owner's consent for more than 48 hours between June 10th and June 16th, 2022 in Lake County, Ohio. Also would show that on that last day, June 16th, 2022 in Lake County, Officer Dahl of the Madison Township Police Department was driving a marked cruiser wearing a uniform, and he's a certified peace officer, and he activated his lights and sirens to indicating for the defendant to stop that 2005 Toyota Corolla that he was driving. And the defendant did not do so and did not stop. And this was a matter of the defendant continuing to drive for several hundred yards in only a matter of seconds before Officer Dahl deactivated his lights. And the felony that the defendant was committing was that unauthorized use of motor vehicle. There was not a separate felony or additional. Then on July 5th, 2022 in Lake County, Ohio, the defendant took 4 bath towels, 2 hand towels, various shirts, shorts, sweatshirts, socks, and sweaters that were owned by Suzanne Smith, who was a 78-year-old lady at the time, and her son Wesley Smith, who is a disabled adult, having suffered brain trauma throughout his life and is recognized as not being able to work due to that disability. And I will, for purposes of the record and Your Honors, being required to order restitution to the elderly victim in this case, I'll say that the bath towels were the only items owned separately by Suzanne Smith and that were worth $35. The defendant took those items without the permission of the owners. And then August 13th, 2022 in Lake County, Ohio, the defendant did knowingly obtain, possess, or use cocaine. This was a glass smoking pipe that was in the defendant's tattoo kit that had cocaine residue on it, Schedule II controlled substance. Thank you.
Pomplice, did you hear and understand everything the prosecutor just said?
Yes, sir.
And is everything he said true?
Absolutely not. But
Well,
for argument's sake, yes. I mean, I could take somebody. Wesley's one of my good friends. Okay, I stopped there. Thanks for explaining. I've known the kid 20 years. They have brain cancer. That's how we became friends, because people were coming out of school and I keep.
here, let me take it one at a time just to make sure. So, between June 10th and June 16th of '22, did you use Roger Salupo's 2005 Toyota Corolla and kept it for more than 48 hours without permission?
I had permission, but yes. Yes, I did. Yes. I guess so. We'll go with that.
Well, you said you had permission.
Yeah, I know. In the statement, it says he gave me the car, and he forgot he gave me the car. He gave me the car, yes. And then I didn't even know, as a video, the guy didn't even know it was stolen because it tags or because I didn't even know. I even said in the video, I told the cop, I got a warrant. He goes, you don't have a warrant? I said, no. He said, you don't even have a warrant yet. Well, why would I not have a warrant? The car was stolen. So I'm saying, this is, Mr. Lucci, I'm so confused at with this, but at the same token, I have real deleterious things going on, and I agree to plead. So, I mean, I guess for the sake of this, yes, I'm guilty. You know what I'm saying?
On June 16th of this year, did you operate a motor vehicle willfully to elude or flee the police officer?
Again, no, but everybody's body cameras but his. I know, Mr. Manchin, you have something more. I'll check this.
On count 7, on July 5th of this year,
Yes, I did that, yes.
did you take the towels from
I
Suzanne
did.
Smith without her permission?
I definitely did that.
And did you take from Wesley Smith assorted clothing, cologne, and/or toiletries without permission?
Yes, I did.
And on count 10, did you possess cocaine on August 13th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
Well,
If I may,
yes?
as to count 4, Your Honor, Mr. Salupo, the owner of the vehicle, reported to the Painesville Police Department that the defendant, that Mr. Salupo did give his keys, Mr. Salupo's keys, to the defendant so that the defendant could move his car out of a tow zone, with the understanding you'd bring it right back. And then the defendant never brought it back.
You have a mistake, they got to be the permission to put on there to get cigarettes too.
So along the lines of what Mr. Pomplice is saying here,
I'm good.
there was initially a situation where Mr. Salupo allowed Mr. Pomplice to move his car momentarily, but then he kept the car for 6 days. And Mr. Pomplice acknowledged this to the Madison Township Police Department on the 16th when he was apprehended by the Madison Township Police Department. He was forthcoming with the officer. He says, I'm not going to lie, I took the car. And that video was provided to the defense in discovery. Also, the unauthorized use of motor vehicle, Madison Township, they don't have dash cam. And, but what I detailed for the record here is in the police report, and that's also with my discussions with the officer. This was a couple hundred yards in a matter of seconds. With the lights were on, he didn't stop.
What's that?
There was no mirrors on the car, and the windshield was destroyed. All right. You know what? The fact of the matter is, I shouldn't even been in that position, so I'm guilty, period. That's like being an asshole, so I'm guilty. I accept that.
Well,
I'm guilty.
did you keep Mr. Salupo's car beyond what he granted you permission, and by more than 2 days over what he granted you permission to do?
Absolutely.
Right. And
I did take.
so you're charged with attempted failure to comply.
Right.
So
Right, it's okay, I accept it.
are you guilty of attempted
Yes.
failure to comply?
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Matthews, are you satisfied that the defendant is factually and legally guilty of the 4 crimes to which he is pleading guilty, based upon your conversations with him, based upon your review of the discovery and your training and experience?
Without question.
So, Mr. Pomplis, your plea to count 4, unauthorized use of a vehicle, felony 5. Your plea to the lesser included offense to count 5, attempted failure to comply, felony 5. Your plea to amended count 7, including the victim and property, from count 8, theft from a person in a protected class, felony 5. And your plea to count 10, possession of cocaine, felony 5. I'm going to hand you the written plea of guilty document that we talked about earlier, the 4-page document. Make sure you've read it, make sure you understand what it says, make sure you agree with what it says, and if you sign it only because that's what you want to do. I've made my markings in red on that document so you can easily tell what I've done to it since you last saw it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prior to the hearing, I did view the written plea of guilty with Mr. Pomplis. He indicated that he understood it. Yeah.
Wet signature, huh? Should you be a lawyer too?
I think so.
Your Honor, the defendant signed a written plea of guilty form. Mr. Matthews signed the form. I signed the form. With the court's permission, I'll approach to present that form to Your Honor.
Yes? I'll sign the judgment entry at the end of the document and make it part of the record in the case. The record should reflect that defendant John A. Pomplis was here with attorney James Matthews in open court. I informed Mr. Pomplis of all of his constitutional rights. He's made a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary waiver of those rights. I find he understands the nature of the charges, the effect of the pleas, as well as the maximum penalty which can be imposed. Finding it to be knowing, intelligent, and voluntary, I accept his pleas and find him guilty of count 4, unauthorized use of a vehicle, felony 5, revised code 2913.03B. The lesser included offense, count 5, attempted failure to comply, felony 5, revised code 2923.02A and 2921.331B. Amended count 7, theft from a person in a protected class, including the victim and property, on count 8, felony 5, revised code 2913.02A1, and count 10, possession of cocaine, felony 5, revised code 2925.11A. Counts 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, and 11 will be dismissed upon completion of sentencing. I'm going to refer you to the Lake County Adult Probation Department for a pre-sentence investigation and report, a drug and alcohol evaluation with a brief mental assessment. Any other purposes?
For referral, no.
Sentencing will occur on January 9th, 2023 at 1 o'clock p.m.
Is there anything sooner?
Can I talk? Can I ask you some brief sentencing? Can I say something to you before you go through all this other stuff?
What's that?
This is the situation I'm in. They got me a medical observation. I have a system on my case. You told me to file the proper channels. All right. Dr. Swartz at Concord wants to give me this medication. They gave me the wrong medication. I put in a motion for an OR bond. I mean, is there any I'm willing to say, I got a lot of things going on. I need to get on TV. I don't want to get high no more. I'm not going to get high no more. I wasn't even having drugs in my system.
Where do you live?
I have two places I go. My mom, that's how I'm getting it. My mom and my dad are actually on board with me now because my mom's like, I'm sincere because I'm sick. I'm pissing blood still. I had an ultrasound done. They sent me out for a CAT scan. I'm getting ready to go see him again. I have to see the physician again today.
What's the size of the cyst?
I'm finding all that information out today. They got, so anyway, to make it fast, they administered me medication 2 days ago, and it was the wrong medication. So when I kited the medical department, I got a stack of kites this big, Your Honor. I said, you know, are these people certified? And then they said, that's not a medical request. I said, well, who's responsible? I have hepatitis, you're giving me acetaminophen. I have a bad liver. Like, who's getting paid to think here? So then I'm not trying to be a smart ass. So she's like, okay, well, we'll put you in medical observation. So I got me stuck in the cell. That's disgusting. I'm down in front of it with all these suicide watch people. I'm not going to mess up. I mean, I almost want to throw it out there to Rocco, please. I know he's going to say no. Like, I'm going to say, like, if you let me out to follow that scheduled signature health, I have a place to go with my parents at 4146. I have a job at Forensic Stone. I started $22 an hour to pay restitutions. I did take from them people, and they're good people. And I also would say that if I mess any of this up, man, you can give me the whole 4 years consecutive, man, and I won't even test it. That's how sure I am I'm not going to mess this up. You know what I'm saying? Sitting in jail is not getting nothing done for me. I'm not getting the proper treatment. I have every avenue I need to do. I've done Jim Matthews, been lawyer, and even Rocco. I mean, he's been good for it, you know. And I understand I have a failure here. I almost got pistol with my teeth kicked out of my head. You know, I'm losing vision in my left eye. They're not doing nothing for me there. And it's just going to continue. And then I got to go through so many avenues just to get an appointment. And then I got to be stuck. It's
Well, let me hear from the prosecutor.
All right. As Mr. Poplis said, and as the state has done throughout these proceedings, when there's been a request for a bond modification, the state would object.
When was the failure to appear?
The failure to appear, when the defendant was arrested on June 16th in Madison Township, like I relayed when talking about the facts of this case, bond was set at $5,000 cash surety, 10%, which the defendant then posted on June 22nd. The defendant failed to appear on June 27th for his preliminary hearing. He was then arrested in Menor on August 13th, which is when you have that cocaine residue on it. At that time, bond was revoked, but the municipal court did, after revoking the bond, set a bond at $100,000 cash surety, 10% in that first case that he failed to appear in. The Menor theft case, bond was set at $10,000 cash surety, or 10%, and the defendant was given an own recognizance bond on the possession of drugs case. So when all of these cases were bound over and were consolidated, the conglomerated bond would be $110,000 cash surety, or 10%. There was an inquiry arraignment in this matter, and arraignment was set at Judge Condon, $75,000 cash surety, 10%. That's what the bond is. At this time, is what my note says.
Well, can I ask something to the prosecutor? You told me to proffer with the detective. Now, I talked to Detective Blank, and they wanted this James Fody guy, okay? Now, he raped my girl, Michelle Knopp. She was in the court last time I was here. She's pregnant by him right now. Scumbag, but he's like, we've been chasing this Fody dude for 2 years. I said, I'll get him this week for it. He's a nutty one. I said, yes, I will. So I texted Michelle. Michelle set him up and comforted him in Madison off 98th in Cleveland. That's where he's in jail. He got arrested. Took him 2 years with this guy. I got him in a week. I also have other information. I talked to Ren. He was supposed to talk to Mr. Matthews, and he did not yet because they're waiting. They wanted to talk to you, or however. I don't know how that works because I've never really been on that side of the fence. But this is how serious I am. Like, I'm done with this. This will be the last time we do this. And like I said with him, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm willing to put it out there. Like, if I mess up, man, just throw the book at me and just max me out. Like, I know I'm not going to F this up, man. Nah, if I have really deleterious things going on. Plus, I catch another felony with an OR, do I not? You know, and my dad's sick again. He's got a heart valve going on. Like, I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm accountable. That's why, I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to cheer the focus. You know, I definitely put them people high on drugs. But like I said, the rest of that shit is just, you know, it's just bad decisions, bad timing. You know, I'm not a bad dude, I'm not. And I promise I'll make the court. I got pistol whipped, and I was laying in the rain in a band over a concussion. I should have called the court and said, hey, you know, but I mean, no, Chester's court, that's irrelevant, I'm just speaking in circles now, but, you know, and I need further proper medical. And, you know, I promise I'll do everything I'm supposed to do. I'll come to probation like that. Last time I piss every week for the court in my head. Whatever it takes, man. I'm not giving the proper chance. I need to medical. I'm going to be laying in the cell for 24 hours a day.
All right.
Crazy people kicking doors all over the streets. It's not, you know, take a chance on it, man. You just think, you know.
You said you can live with your parents.
I could live, there's a lot of places. I could get my own place. You know what I'm saying? I could get my own place. I have a job at Forensic Stone. The Pignani family's willing to give me money to go get a car. Oh, that's okay. I've just, Judge Trebek said, he said, Mr. Pompley, I said, yeah. He said, let's take care of this case in 2015. Out of $2,800, I can never get a driver's license, to be honest. When I get 20 grand in my pocket.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
I'll reset your bond to own recognizance with conditions that you live with your parents,
Okay.
have full employment, and you attend to your medical issues.
Okay.
That's the reason why I'm letting you out.
Okay. Fair
To
enough.
attend to your medical issues so that you're not burdening the sheriff
Amen.
with that and you're getting the proper treatment.
Right. Now, should I detect, when I see the detectives, now what's the avenue on that one? Because I really want to.
That's up to you.
Well, I'm saying, so I just show up, but what about, I want to,
That, I have nothing to do with that, that's up to you.
okay.
Now, if you don't show up,
Give me the whole 4 years, man.
well, no, it's gonna be more than that.
Okay.
Because Rocco is going to take the case to the grand jury,
Just do the schmuck.
get you indicted on an F4,
Right.
and I'll give you the 4 years plus 18 months on the failure to appear.
Say less, man.
Okay.
Overstood.
So, you're talking 5.5 years.
I'm gonna beat this thing over.
Pardon?
I'm gonna do what I need to do. Now, here's the question. If I
Okay,
come-
I'll play this back to you. When I'm giving you 5.5 years,
I'm not mad.
I'm gonna
We're not
play
gonna
this
be-
back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna be on court cam. I understand. I know how it's gonna go. I'm just like, I seen you on TV the other day. I was like, no shit. Or, anyways, yes, I understand. And I accept that. Thank you. Thank you, Rocco.
any other conditions?
Your Honor,
I
want to make sure that one of the conditions would be no contact with the Smiths
Oh, with no contact with the
and Roger
victims?
Salupo.
Yeah, no contact with the
I don't
victims.
want to see that. Now, if I get the money together, can I just bring it to the court when I come?
No, you go through the probation department.
Okay,
But you
thank you
bring
so
it
much.
with you at sentence.
Thank you so much.
But before you get out, you have to go to the probation department and see them.
Okay. So when they release you, they go there first?
If they release you before you go there, then you go there immediately upon release.
Okay.
If they're still working on the paperwork and the probation department comes over to see you, then they'll see you at the jail.
Thank you. Thank you, Rocco, so much.
The judge did it, not me.
Well, I mean, but you really could have threw the monkey wrench.
Do you, Tony, you have
Thank you, Jim. Hey, sorry.
bond paper and the conditions?
I appreciate it. I don't make you regret this.
You may have already signed conditions in May.
Well, Your Honor, I would ask that it's on the record when the next hearing is. Your Honor's mentioned it was January 9th.
January
I didn't hear
9th,
time.
pardon?
I didn't hear what time it was.
1 p.m.
Oh, thank you very much.
January 9th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
I'll be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. And now, if anything happens, just contact me.
Hold me.
I'm talking about my medicals and all that stuff.
You stay in contact with your attorney.
Stay in touch with me.
Thank you, Mr. Eugene. Appreciate that so much. Thank you, Rocco, again, man, for not trying to jam that up for me. I really need this medical attention, dude. And like I said, it's funny, Lucci sent me a request this morning.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. No.
Mr. Perry, you want this back?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. Now, if I come to court with like completed treatments and all that stuff, would that help me?
Absolutely.
All rise.
You already shut it. I respect you. I'm sure Chris and I still. I did that.
You did.
Wrap up.
All right, good luck. Good luck.
Hey, listen, when I
Take
come
care.
back to court, I might have something to present to you as well. I really am trying to keep this thing in.
All right, very good.
And just for the record, you know, that's not bad. They didn't even read my rights in the record.
These are the conditions of bond that will come.
Oh, thanks. Can I have?
Touch with me.
Because I didn't make no cost up that.
Here and all your folk hearings, and you change your address or telephone number, which you're going to put right here.
Come see you
If that changes, you gotta let me know.
within 24 hours.
If you do any of these following things, you can revoke your bond.
Absolutely.
You cannot use any drugs. You cannot get in any trouble. You cannot be able to stay in contact with him. You cannot call him.
Oh, so I can go have me a drink and a sandwich.
In terms of the conditions of your bond, yes. Would it be a good idea for you? Probably not.
No, where do I sign it?
You sign on that line and then you put your complete address and your phone number on the next line.
As far as phone number goes, I'm gonna have to probably turn that phone back on. I don't remember. So should I just call you with the number or what? Or you give me my landline?
Well, I would say as soon as you get out and you get a phone,
I have one right here.
call my office.
Right here.
You put your address and phone number there. Yes, I do.
Hold on.
All right, can you help him finish this?
I'll just put my mom's number on here because I mean, I'm gonna be get the contact with her daily.
You can touch your signature.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jimmy.
Good luck, sir.
Yeah, you thanks, Rock. You too, brother. I mean, I'm serious, man. I really I'm much obliged. Yeah.
This is your.
41,
Oh,
46,
thank you.
yeah.
That's your mom's
Right.
place?
Yes. Well, once I get out, like I said, I mean, I'll get the count with him. I got a job. I mean, I do marble and stuff, you know, at Forenza, so, and I tattoo. So, I mean, I'll be all right. It's just like I just never stay sober. That's the problem. So I'm actually just trying to stay sober, be honest with you. Like, not trying to go into this shit, dude. And he will give me that whole 5, too. That he will give me the man of his word. Absolutely. That part, you know, and probably I'll be consecutive, too. Yeah, right. He's cool though, man. For real. Right is right and wrong is wrong, man. They're fucking some people who can slime ball. He goes in his car and he reports it stolen, dude. Alright, so then I don't even know, and then the cops get behind me and the windshield time me more. Smashed the windshield out. I didn't even know the cops, but they got called to another pursuit. So I pulled the car over, I'm like, what the fuck the police at? And then they weren't there, so then I pull into an address and I pulled to an old child molester's house. Whose basement was flooded. I mean, right? They can't come home. You know my family, dude. One of that people, you know, I think we could have been shot out the other here in an hour.
I did all of the video, along with that, a couple hours.
Probably get to see it one time. We don't want to do that trade. We don't want to do
But
that.
I have the paperwork comes over and stuff, it's normally a couple hours.
Hey, it was just a, you shoot, and I think it's one half of the show.
Yeah, okay.
I want to go over there.